Our next speaker is Leonard Blackem. Leonard is the Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Utah, and certainly when you look at the changes that have occurred in the state of Utah in the last 10 years, from the beehive state to tremendous population growth, climate issues and others, I think he has a message that'll be of interest to all of us. He is representing the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture, which is the aggregate for all of those departments within all of the states in the country. So welcome, Leonard, please.
Well, it's great to be with you today. I don't think I'm going to add too much new. I think most of us could have traded notes or presentations, and because we're all going to say about the same thing, and I'm going to do the same here for the National State Departments of Agriculture. We're very much involved in these issues in Utah, but I'll stay off of that and just take the national perspective, a little bit of what we're doing here, and I'm going to bring our discussion from our association to three main points. First being the health of the range and the pastures, and second being the proper investment and policy that's needed to accomplish that health and productivity, and finally the environmental and economic balance that's needed to accomplish the proper health that exists, or we would like to have exist. Range health is a major issue for us throughout the country, and of course, as everyone talks about invasive species. In the west, we're having catastrophic fires, some in the south as well. And we have this native issue versus the, I got a different thing on the screen here I'm reading. The native versus beneficial use, and beneficial species that we can use to rehabilitate. And then we have, of course, some of the endangered species that are now taking major stage again with us. In the west, we're looking at sage grouse, and we all just simply sit in fear of the listing of endangered species. The other issue in the Intermountain West that we're dealing with, of course, is invasive species of cheatgrass. It's a major reason why we're having the wild rangeland fires in the west, and the pinyon juniper invasion, which is a native plant, but which, of course, is creating huge problems for us. There's the bottom picture is the Utah juniper. There's a bill in the Utah legislature to make that the state tree, and most of us are suggesting we want to change one word. We're going to change the word from tree to weed, and then we've hit it. Here's an example of the problem that we're having with the pinyon juniper encroachment. Here on the left side is a picture of a range area in 1902, picture in 1995, and it spread even more. So you can see that sometimes it's the encroachment of a native species as well as an invasive, which becomes an invasive species in our watersheds and in our landscapes, which of course affect the water quality and all the different factors of good range health. Water restoration work of our watersheds in Utah, and nationally we're working on that, and of course it's been talked about water quality and quantity. Both of these things are enhanced when watersheds are improved. They reduce the catastrophic fires, of course, and reduce the damage to soils, helps limit the spread of invasive species, and reduce the flood threats, and improve the air quality in general. This will not happen with the hands-off approach that we took for so many years. I think we're all starting to realize that, and it's good to see us all being willing to be involved to resolve the issues, and intervention is necessary to regain the improvement in the health of our watersheds and our healthy lands. Now, the environmental benefits are huge. I think for many years, I like to say agriculture exported two main things into society. First one was food and fiber, and the second was our children. And there was a huge benefit of both of those exports that we put into society. Well, we're going to continue to do the first one, the food and fiber, but we no longer have enough people out there in agriculture to export our children to society to have any significant impact. And that benefit is gone, but the benefit that agriculture is going to provide to the citizens and the citizens of the world is the environmental benefits. Our public lands, we need to get our BLM and U.S. Forest Service people back on the ground. We need more action and less process. We need to make state and federal investment. And as indicated, those federal funds seem to be diminishing. I think the states need to step up to the plate and create more state funds going into it, and if nothing else, embarrass the federal government to make a heavier investment in the natural resource arena. And we need support for multiple use. When I went through college, we talked about multiple use. I personally think we need to talk about it again, because we need the oil and gas, we need the healthy watersheds, we need abundant wildlife, and we can have multiple use and still protect and preserve our resources. Recreational opportunities didn't come up. More abundant protein. Sometimes there's a disconnect here. I mean, in the West, we had this big movement for a lot of years to kick all the livestock off the public lands. People forget how cheap their food is, and the reason is reasonable. And that abundant protein that we all enjoy, we do not want to diminish that possibility. Public lands, then, in summary, needs intervention by man. We need to control fire. We need to use non-native species sometime to recover our landscapes. And we need grazing. We especially need to realize that livestock grazing is a grazing that we can control, where wildlife grazing is generally uncontrollable or much less controllable, and that there's huge benefits in controlling our landscapes with proper grazing, and it adds a lot, of course, to the weed control as well. Let's go to the next one. Investment. I talked a little bit about investment right there, the importance of doing a heavier investment for all of our federal agencies. And though they can't lobby for that, those of us in the states can lobby for more money for the federal partners, and we need to play a more important role in doing that. State legislative funding I mentioned before, and it's amazing when you have the federal government and the state invest, private funding follows as well. And in Wyoming, we have a tremendous partnership that's going on with the oil and gas folks, who are investing huge dollars now in improving the landscape. In Utah, they're showing the interest of participating as well. And of course, our ranchers and farmers participate with a little bit of incentive. It's amazing what a few dollars of grant money will do in bringing the private sector money into the program. And we need to continue with that. We need to do it on all our lands. We need to do it on the federal and state and the private lands. And of course, we need the research. We need ARS and universities. And you know, it's interesting. I pull out my BlackBerry here, and probably all of you have them in your pocket. In fact, if I leave it home, I don't know what to do about it. I'm amazed at how we are, when it talks electronic or anything else, everything that's new and technology, we embrace immediately. We got a real problem today in the agriculture arena. Technology seems to be the nasty word. Oh, I got to have it natural, I got to have it organic, I wouldn't touch a cloned animal. All of a sudden, the technology that has given us a food supply that we can consume for less than 10% of our disposable income is now unacceptable. And we as a group and as a society need to help the people understand the benefits of technology and the blessings that all of us enjoy because of the science that's been there. Now, federal law and policy. Let's get back to this idea of process. Too much now, process has become more important than land health, and that's been mentioned by many others, than the lack of understanding, and that's been mentioned by many others. And I'll repeat the deal. The hands-off policy of the last 20 years is not the policy of today, and we need to make sure it remains. I've been in politics 20 years now. I started out county commissioner, went state legislature, served the Senate. I was the appropriation chair. I was the majority leader. I know exactly what you're talking about. And in those 20 years, I've never seen a better atmosphere exist for partnering and moving forward together in resolving our natural resources. So I'm excited about that possibility. It's amazing how our agenda's grown. Soil conservation districts, right? Not in Utah, it's conservation districts. And we went from soil to plus water, and now we're plus air. I mean, we're the environment now. In fact, farmers and ranchers are the real environmental managers of the world. They control the lands. They control the benefits of the environment. And those are the folks that we need there. We need to value our grants and our partnerships. We need to educate farmers and ranchers. We need to pass on the costs in a reasonable way. We have trouble doing that. We've got to figure out ways to get that done. We need flexibility, and we need to be preventative, and rather than simply reacting. I think I've said everything that's on that slide. Let's just move on. This is a make-or-break challenge. Often the environmental issues for many farmers and ranchers, because of that problem of high capital costs to implement those practices. Generally, there's no additional revenues that come in because of the environmental demands. We need to see if we can't find some market-based approach to do that. And in some arenas we have, and we need to work to do that because that reduces the amount of government funds that are needed to accomplish it. And we need to expand new agriculture partnership. And in fact, in the National Association, we're suggesting what we call a new agriculture stewardship partnership agreement, which the federal government would enter into with state departments of ag to give more flexibility in meeting the specific conservation needs of that particular state instead of that blanket approach. I don't know if we'll be successful, but that's something we're working on. What we need is leadership, we need more partnerships, we need more investment, and we need education. Cooperation, not litigation. I'm tired of BLM hiring more attorneys and less range scientists. And just to sum it up, we don't not only need to win the war on rangeland, we need to win the war on understanding it.